Wholeness. Welcome to Notes of Nara. My name is Naja Rashida, and welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's message. We're going to talk about and continue this series for January. Oh, and Happy New Year. Happy 2025 to everyone. I can't believe it's 25. Wow. Time is something else, right? But today's topic, I would like to discuss soul selling. What does it mean to sell your soul? In the previous video, if you watched it, please check it out. I described I guess, if you will, a trinity of some kind. You have the soul, spirit, ego, or soul, spirit, ego. Okay? Ego being of the world, physical, material, synthetic, very human, identity, mask wearing, illusion. Then you have spirit. You have that channel of truth, of creativity, the unseen that rules the scene. And then you have the soul that is home to all, the soul that is eternal, internal, external, infinite, that is always here with us. It's within us, without us, it's everywhere. And so I know there's a term being coined right now very heavily in the human collective. Selling of the soul. Oh, she sold her soul. He sold he sold his soul. He sold out. She sold out. What does this mean? In my personal opinion, please don't take all that I share with you as fact. These are just my personal, perspectives on certain concepts, whether that be psychological, spiritual, esoteric, occultic, whatever you want to call it, social. It's just my experience and my interpretation of life, okay? So please share your explanation of what your definitions are. I'm glad to read them, but I don't take everything as a truth, and you should not take everything I say as a truth either. You take what feeds your soul. Soul. Selling of a soul. What does it mean? I'll use the synthetic world of the entertainment industry, okay? Prime example of what's happening now, or unfortunately you have the OnlyFans. It's very disturbing, and I don't want to say names, but I'll just name the industry. So you have the sex industry, and then you have the music and film industry. Maybe even add some sports in there. But in the human collective, what I am observing is that you have this prostitute archetype, where in order to experience the utmost physical, materialistic success, in order to gain access out of the poverty mindset, out of poverty in general, one must sell your essence. Like I've mentioned before, the soul cannot be injured or killed. Okay, it cannot be born, it can't die, it can't be rebirthed, right? It's just, I would have to say, I'm in the middle of doing some very extensive inner work and study on this, and a lot of reading. But so far, what I am gathering in my own understanding, the soul is it is consciousness. Right? It can't be killed or created. It just is. When someone sells their soul, they have allowed their soul, right? They have allowed ego, okay? The desires, the wounds of the ego to completely take over their shadow self, okay? So for example, prostitution, the prostitute archetype that's in the human collective. It's manifests in many different ways, but the entertainment industries that are out there are prime examples of this. So the soul cannot be bought or sold or killed off or anything like that. However, because it's an infinite, eternal power source of the all, of God, or whatever you tune into. When I mentioned the spirit is the channel, okay, between the physical, lower nature self and the higher nature self. We're the soul. Soul, if anything traumatic happens to the body, the soul cuts out. It doesn't like to stay in negativity. It's very difficult for the soul to stay in body when there is, let's say, rape, molestation, very crude acts like taking the life of another person or animal, or harming someone that's innocent, stealing, destroying things. That type of those type of frequencies, soul is like, deuces, I'm not leaving you, but I'm gonna be up here while you work on your ish down here. And the spirit is then corrupted usually by the frequencies of those acts, because the ego takes over. And so when the soul is sold, that means that you have given, because the spirit is highly susceptible to injury in this world, in this realm, in this physical reality, highly susceptible to it. Meaning, like I said before, car accidents, severe life-threatening illnesses, a life-threatening situation, molestation, rape, sexual coercion, prostitution of the body, stealing, addiction, that type of stuff. That hurts and corrupts the spirit. The spirit, as a light worker, what I see is, I see black gunkety goo on people. And when I say on people, how do I know this? I've seen it on myself. I've seen it. It is what it is. But it is the type of energy. Some people can see it, some people can't. And then I see light, okay? It's like the silvery white light stuff. It's an essence that people carry within themselves. That when the spirit is injured in some way due to childhood trauma, our foundation is severely injured, or there's a traumatic event that takes place in our life, that channel to the soul is corrupted. Okay, and so then the soul has to make very intricate ways to get to this realm and to work around and through our very hurt, calcified spirit, because the gatekeepers has been injured. When someone sells their spirit for something, their spiritual essence, they allow an external force, an external being, an institution, an industry, a lover, a friend, a boss, a business partner, a guru, a mentor, okay? They allow that person, they sell the gate to their soul. Meaning, the spiritual essence of a person is no longer, they don't possess their own spiritual essence. They don't have the keys anymore. They literally said, here are the keys. In order for my ego to be fed, illusion. The money, the cars, the prestige, the prosperity, right? Soul contracts, all that other stuff, to live the life they of desire and of material. They say, here are my keys. Here are my keys to the higher realms of my consciousness, to the infinite power of my energy, the energy that never dies, right? When you give those keys to another person outside of this divine connection you have with your soul, that's what that means. And so the spirit of the person is subdued and crushed. And yes, I believe you can kill you can diminish a spirit to almost nothing. Where they have you ever looked into a person, you walk down the street, and they seem soulless? Their eyes are dead, glazed over. They're nobody's home. I have many people all across all walks of life. In my travels, I have seen it. Okay? And it's most concerning when I see it in children. Very young, hurt, traumatized children. I've seen this look. It's rare that I bump into it, but I see it, that they're not home. The soul, remember when I said when the spirit is deeply wounded, the soul cuts out, right? And it works from up here because it's like, it's too wicked. I can't work through this, right? Because we have, as beings, have a choice. We have to choose to love. And what I'm reading in Sacred Contracts, written by Carolyn Myss, she says that the power of choice is more powerful than love, because we have to choose to love. Just like we have to choose to be open to soul. We have to choose to be open to love, to forgiveness. We have to choose to be open to create. We have to choose to be open. So so for the industries that I mentioned before, the SEX industry, the sports industry, film, and music industry are perfect examples of it's a high form of the archetypal prostitute. It is what it is. In exchange, in a balanced transaction of energy, in exchange for their talent and gifts, okay, they get retribution for that. They get money. They get benefits for that. And in some form, we all do this. We all do this. In a patriarchal monetary system that we have in our modern day society, we give in our time and energy, and then we get the money to sustain ourselves, to sustain a lifestyle. But it turns ugly when these beings give the keys to people who then use their source energy, okay, and they trap their spirit, okay. They use this, and then they become, and it is unnatural. You break when you have that type of transaction where you give your soul keys to people, especially. It's very malicious. It breaks universal laws, universal spiritual laws of God, laws of order in the universe, multiverse. It goes against nature. So these executives, directors, people that do all of this, you never see them, right? You never see the people who are actually the driving force behind these industries. They have a lot of puppets that they throw in the fire when they don't need them anymore, right? So you hand over the keys, and the source, the power of the soul is then channeled, just like just a huge straw of powerful energy, okay? And your spirit is like a channel, okay? And I mean, you're still being used up, but your spirit's not your spirit anymore because you gave away your keys. And so your spirit, it just is wide open. No discernment, no block. So any entity, energy, anyone can literally run through you, and around you. And over time, in order to cope, I have to use these examples because they're so well known, like Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston, okay? Perfect examples. They had to turn to addiction to cope with this exchange. To some degree, sometime, some form, they gave their keys away, okay? And either they did it out of ignorance, or they did it out of desperation, or because they believed in their art form so much and they wanted everybody to hear it, and they wanted to share their gift so much, and they thought they were doing something great. And they didn't know what they were signing up for. And so Whitney Houston, her beautiful voice, she was called the Voice. All right. She's one of the, as a singer myself, she inspired me. I watched The Bodyguard over and over and over and over and over in the 90s. Okay. I just loved the power, and she sang from her heart. So inspirational. And then I remember it was like in 2007, 2005, 2007, when her addiction became very, very public. I could tell, especially as someone at that time in the early 2000s, I was an undergrad, so I was learning the science of voice and how to use your voice, how to breathe correctly, how to project, how to do this, how to do that. And I could tell the magic in her voice began to wither. It became very thin. She didn't have the power, to project her voice or sustain that power anymore. It was done. Her body was done, okay? Her spiritual channel, done. I couldn't hear the soul anymore. And that was due to many years of drug addiction. For decades, she struggled personally. No one knew until until the later, towards the end of her life, that she was struggling with it, and everyone could see it then. And usually when you can see it, it's too late. Michael Jackson, no one knew he was an addict. It was private, but he had to deal with the pressures of the industry because he went after the industry to get his soul keys back. He went after Sony, right? Buying up huge catalogs from very big bands like the Beatles. He was a very smart businessman. But I remember watching a clip, not an interview, but it was like he was speaking to a whole group of people, and he said Sony, and he called them out. A few years later, he was dead. This isn't a channel to do the conspiracy investigative part of that. My point is, though, if you watch this man from the age of 6 or 7, 9, I mean, talk about soul power, God. You watch that man on the stage. To me, it was magic. I don't know about you. And look, I was born in the late 80s, so I was late on the up and up, okay? I didn't grow up with the big Jackson 5 and the big afros and everything, but we watched a bio, my mom purchased the VHS bio flick of the family, of the Jackson 5, called American Dream. And I was just in awe, like magic. Moonwalk? What? Huh? Right? It just magic. And I'm not here to talk about these people's personalities or anything, their personal life, and where the specifics of what got them to where they got. My point is this: selling the soul. Okay? I read that the only thing that changes when you're selling your soul to the devil, okay, the opposite of living, the devil, flip it, it's called lived, okay, opposite of living, opposite of thriving, opposite of growth, okay, that's what devil is. The only thing that changes, the devil doesn't change when you make a deal. The devil changes you, okay, and, So, yes. So with this explanation, I hope you have a different perspective on the selling of the soul. And to get your soul retrieval, the retrieval of the soul keys, can almost cost you your life. You see it with many artists now, when it's like, oh no, I sold my soul. Or I'll mention one more example that's very very putrid and very sad. So you guys remember OnlyFans is like a new thing. It's a digital website. I remember a few years ago it came out, and people use OnlyFans as a way to cater to fans of um, previous social platforms. So if you already had YouTube or Instagram or whatever, people are like, oh, if you're a big fan of my work, and like these people had 2 million subscribers, then come on to OnlyFans and I'll give you specific or exclusive content access to me on a personal level. This has turned so dark. It's really bad. They tried to ban it already once, and it effed up money flow somewhere, and it probably ticked off some kind of upscale CEO, director, puppeteer that runs everything, and they put it back on the market. The second time it was put back on the market, it's turned into literally prostitution, digital prostitution. There's no other way around it. I'm not poo-pooing workers of any kind. People choose to do what you see, the power of choice. People choose to do what they choose to do. But 2 women from the UK, good Lord. I'm not going to say their names, but they need a lot of prayer. And I think they're both probably 2 of many, many thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe, of women who they're perfect examples of what I mean by selling of the soul. Okay? There's one woman in particular, I'll share this. So she vowed to sleep with 100 men in one day. And it was documented. So it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't fake. She wasn't pulling any strings. This woman did this. And all I can say with the hypersexuality that we see in the digital era, if anything, they should have really pulled the plug on these women. But at the same time, it's almost like the human collective is purging certain archetypes of the soul. And the prostitution archetype is strong in society. If you give me this, I'll give you something precious of mine. Because my ego wants to live in this illusion. And for me to live in this illusion, I need to sell something precious so that you can give me something that I find precious so I can live in the illusion I want to live in. So yes, this young woman of 23 years old, she slept with 100 people in one day. Send her prayers. Send the collective prayers. We need prayers. We need healing. But I think given that so many, it's taken the digital world by storm. And this is why, my week break from the digital world and being and sitting in silence, sometimes it's hard to come back. Like I wish I could spend a month in complete silence and just focus on my music and my art. But c'est la vie. But that is what I mean. And so, because sexual energy is a different type of frequency, and I've mentioned this before in my celibacy videos, humans don't fully comprehend the power of sexual force, or not force, but sexual energy in general. It is a very primitive, primal, biological, impulsive act, right, to procreate, to reproduce on one level. The level that I'm talking about is the level we don't see, but we feel it. And to exchange this part of yourself, that spiritual essence, in exchange for money or for whatever, and you do it to gain financial affluence to fulfill an egoic illusion. I will say this. Soul keys, once you give them away, are very difficult to retrieve, for the spirit to retrieve them. The soul will always be your soul, but the connection to it can become so fragmented that it's very hard to find your way home. Like Dorothy and Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, it's like a never-ending tornado once you go to that level. I'm not judging anyone who's had a past like that, who's been trafficked or prostituted or abused in any way, as a survivor of that. Early childhood trauma, do you understand it can take people decades to retrieve that key when it's taken by force. And it's even harder to retrieve those soul keys when you just give it away willingly. So I send much prayer to the young lady and the other lady that's also highly publicized right now. They're both trending. I love what I do with this, but the energy of social media is very dense. Very, very dense and very 3D, which is turning more into 4D every day. And this is why you must do your spiritual work, your rituals of spirit to purify your spiritual channel, because when the spiritual channel is injured, it can be very difficult to know how to use your soul keys. But and that's the thing when it comes to the prostitute archetype, because a lot of people their soul keys are robbed from them. But when it's willingly given away, it takes you need a lot of help. You need healers. You need therapy. You need a lot of support to help you get those keys back. And it takes a long time. You can have one horrible sexual trauma in your life, just one with one individual, okay, and it takes you forever, a whole lifetime to regain your soul key and then to use your soul key properly so that it doesn't get taken away from you again or you don't accidentally give it away. So I can't even imagine 100. But this is why it's so important it's doing spiritual or spirituality, spiritual. What does that mean to you? What does spirit actually mean? It's not just buying some sage and Palo Santo and sitting in seance and circles and covens and whispering in the dark over a candle. It goes way deeper than what people even we can't fathom. We can't think. Soul doesn't think. And it's real easy with spiritual practices for the ego to attach itself to it. We may be going in with good intentions and coming out jacked up because we're not checking our ego. We're not seeing what our own illusions are. We're not checking into our shadow self. Ego loves shadow self. Shadow self, undiscovered and unrevealed is food to ego. It becomes you can neutralize the food or the desire, the hunger of the ego by doing the work. Whatever that may look. And what does it mean when people say spiritual work? What does it mean to do the work? Do the work. Do what you know you have to do, but you don't want to do it. Like going to therapy, getting those certain tests done, looking at certain things that are holding you back, doing the thing that you're most afraid of, taking certain risks, saying no, boundaries, putting boundaries into place, having your professional life, personal life, secret life, and putting the people, when you know study the roles and the value that people bring into your life, you put them where they need to go. You don't let everybody run through your boundaries. Boundaries are important for the spirit. And it takes you getting hurt, it takes pain, it takes experience to gain wisdom, to know when and what to do. So I know this was a bit long, but it's important, and I'm very much into archetypes. For the longest time, I was like, am I into tarot? Nah. Am I into astrology? It's a hit or miss. There's truth. There's a little bit of truth in everything, but archetypes really say a lot. Why? Because I'm a woman. I'm a being that likes to study patterns and cycles and seasons. And when I see certain patterns and cycles in my life that keep repeating itself, something's going on. Good, bad, happy, sad. Something much deeper is happening in my consciousness. Something much deeper is happening in the human collective, the consciousness of the human collective. So it fits much better for me this way. But the prostitute archetype is very strong when it comes to the selling of the soul. It's really the selling of the spirit, the soul keys. It's like you give your house, it's very rare when people, lose their keys, right? Here's another example, losing your keys. And we all have that key ring, and we have our mailbox key, we have our car keys, garage key, back door key, front key, key to our P.O. box, key to the safe. These are things you keep close to you, no? You don't just hand them off, not even to your best friend. Unless you're saying, hey, go into the house and get this for me because you trust them, right? Very rarely do you just hand off your keys to somebody. Your soul keys are incredibly important. You can replace your your car keys. You can replace your house keys. Your soul keys you can't replace. You cannot. Because they are uniquely yours. Your unique, authentic, energetic blueprint to certain portals of your consciousness that you should only have access to and no one else. And when you allow someone to have access to your portals of consciousness, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Ain't no way around it. And it takes a lifetime sometimes to just retrieve one of your keys back, if at all. Some people give up their lives and they don't make it and they wither away. And some people just they just spend their whole life stuck. That's what stuck is. You've given away your keys, or your keys are robbed from you, and you don't do the work to retrieve anything, or just you're lost. You don't have the correct guidance to retrieve your keys. And you're lost. You're just going around in circles. Everything's redundant. Everything keeps replaying. And you're like, why am I stuck? 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 It's purgatory. You're in between the sunken place. You know, you're stuck in the sunken place. Watching life pass you by. So, you know, is it worth it? What I see in the industry, in the industries of the prostitute archetype in the human collective, no, no, no. Ain't nothing worth your soul. There's a Tracy Chapman song. All that you have is your soul. Oh, my mama told me. She said she had to learn the hard way. It's on my list of songs to learn. She said she want to spare the children. My mom used to play it all the time. She said, don't give your soul away, 'cause all that you have is your soul. They don't play that on the radio, do they? All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in, and if you watched the whole thing, I really applaud you. If this speaks to your soul. Take care.